Welcome everybody to the Cheltenham 2025 book building series. So this is episode 1. For those that aren't part of my Telegram group, well, first, if you want to join, it's in my link in my bio over on X. But within the chat group, which is a kind of a sub group from the main tipping group, we were having a little bit of a conversation around book building, how that works, and I shared a few bets and books that I've started to build for the Cheltenham Festival next year. So I am doing a series on it. Obviously, this is the first episode of that series. So this is very much kind of a starter's guide. Don't want to teach anybody how to suck eggs, but at the same time, don't want to make any assumptions that everybody knows exactly what they're doing when it comes to building a book. And I've had a few questions about it. So hopefully I can answer those questions, give some hints, some tips, and a bit of a guide as to how I go about building a book. And then hopefully then people can get on board, start building their own and make a few quid come the Cheltenham Festival in March. So what I'll take you through, as I say, are those hints how I go about building a book. And then from there, give you some live examples of books I've started to build for a couple of races in March. And then also just really a checklist. I'll also do a bit of a screen share for those that aren't that familiar with using the exchange, and just give some examples about how that could be used and utilised during a book building process. But we will not waffle on, we'll get straight stuck in. So firstly, these are kind of my hints and tips or my guidelines really to book building for the Cheltenham Festival. So the first point is think of a profit target. So you're not really playing... you're not trying to identify, well, of course you're trying to identify the winner, but what you are doing is you're playing the whole market. So identify how much it is you want to make from each race. So it might be £10, it might be 100, it might be 1,000, whatever it is, but identify what that profit target is and then build your book around whatever the outcome being. It means that should one of the horses in your book win, you obtain that profit margin. The second thing would be access to multiple accounts. Now, obviously, I know it's getting more and more difficult for everybody to be able to get on, never mind to have access to the entirety of the market, but you will see that some bookmakers offer far greater value. And at the end of the day, value is king, in my opinion. Some will subscribe to the theory that just back winners, and that's very much their MO. I would disagree. And I think if you look at historical tipsters, whether it be Harry Finlay, Barney Curley, the likes of Shane Revel, who's a very good judge in Ireland, or anybody really worth their salt who's made the game pay, they will tell you that value is king. Even those that are a little bit more well known, whether it be your Johnny Deneen's, your Gavin Lynch's, and I very much subscribe to that theory, and that's everything that I do from a tipping perspective is with value in mind. So access to multiple accounts is important. Get your mum to open one, your dad to open one, your sister, your brother, your dog, your auntie, your uncle, and just get on where possible. We all have to do it. So multiple accounts is key. The third thing, if you don't have exchange accounts, get them. Betfair would be recommended. There's far more liquidity on there than there is on the likes of Betback or Matchbook, is what I found. Matchbook, however, I haven't had an awful lot of experience with. So I'm saying that without actually having a Matchbook account previously in my name. But you need an exchange account. Those three that I've just mentioned are probably the key ones. But Betfair Exchange is certainly where the most liquidity is, albeit liquidity is down generally across all the exchanges anyhow, but that's just a trend of betting. Anyhow, I digress slightly there. Profit target, multiple accounts, get an exchange account. From there, it's then about identifying the races that you're willing to build a book around. The Gold Cup, for example, would be pointless in doing so, just given how they're currently priced. So, look, with Factor File 7-2, Galloping de Champ 4-1, personally, I wouldn't build a book around that race. I almost exclusively build books around the novice races, whether they're novice hurdles or whether they're the novice chases. Those are the races that I would tend to build a book around, and potentially the handicaps closer to the time, but more than likely not, because a lot of the prices, you're having to identify very early out what the race target is, and there's even more choice and option, as well as actually skipping Cheltenham for Aintree with the likes of the Grand National and so on a few weeks later. So almost exclusively I stick to the novice races, either over hurdles or the chases. The next thing to look for would be to have cash out facilities. Now I'll come on to this with the next point, but the likes of Bet365, the likes of Betfair, I'm not sure about other bookmakers, but those that do offer cash out facilities, like for example, Sky Bet and Unibet don't, to have that facility is ideal. Obviously, if you can't get it, you can't get it. But in an ideal scenario, you'd be able to place your bets that aren't on the exchange with a bookmaker that is offering best price and offers a cash out facility. The last but one point is times, your ability to act quickly, and this also feeds back into the cash out facility. So find accounts that have news and updates that come out very frequently, often, and are first to that information. So the likes of the Cheltenham, the road to Cheltenham, that account on Twitter, they generally update and post out all of the info that you need, whether it's with regards to entries, injuries, a horse skipping a particular meeting and so on. So I would advise that you need to have notifications turned on. You need to be following those accounts, because as and when a horse is perhaps injured and out for the season, you can then go to your cash out facility with Bet365, let's say, and on occasions they are slow to act. So you can cash out of the position that you're in, lose no money, and therefore you've avoided just throwing a stake away on a non-runner. And finally, set a stake limit. So back up to the top point, your profit target, but the issue being, if you concentrate too much on the profit target, before you know it, you can be racking up a huge stake on a particular race. I've done it consciously previously, and then going into Cheltenham week, looked at all my positions, even though I'd stay on top of it most days, but then looked at a particular race and gone, shit, I have properly overstaked in that. I've got X amount going into this market. I didn't really intend to do that, but I got that carried away back in selections, trying to achieve my profit target, that I didn't really take into account how much I ended up staking on the race. So set yourself a stake limit as well as a profit target and try and marry the two up. Why would you bother book building? So there's multiple horses running for you, first of all. So building a book essentially is backing a number of horses in a race, and then should any one of them win, then you would win your designated target amount. There's also multiple chances to win. So now personally, I would play all of these win only. I wouldn't be playing each way, but I know that lots of people who do build books will back each way also. So you can end up making the race more profitable come the time of it, because you've not only got the win part, but then you're also making profit on long price selections from the place bet as well. It allows you to obviously spread the risk. You haven't just got one horse running for you, you've got multiple. You can obviously change your liabilities and financial position along the way. So by that, what I mean is you could back a horse, and then come the day, that horse, so Ballyburn, if you back Ballyburn last summer or the summer before even, at 16s or something like that, by the time he's going off odds on the day, you can actually lay off some of that bet. So the exchange come the day allows you to change your position. You can manipulate and change your outcome and what it is that you're trying to achieve based on the exchange market. So you're able to use the exchange to your advantage. Further down the line, you can cash out of positions, you can lay a bit off. You could even do so if you've got such a good price but then don't fancy the horse and you've been absolutely pummeled in the market, you could then lay off a portion of it, or you could have a bet running for you for completely free, or whatever it may be. There's many different things that you're able to do from that perspective. And then also multiple horses, multiple races. So you'll hear Gavin Lynch especially talk about this, saying if you back two horses at 8-1 for two different races and he wins in one of those, you've actually only backed a 7-2 winner. Now that's true. However, with regards to this approach, what you'd have is you would potentially back, let's say, 5 horses. Let's say 4. You back 4 horses, all at 25-1 for the same race. If one of them wins, you've got yourself a 4-1 winner, just over. So you've got a 4-1 winner, and you've got 4 chances of winning. So it works differently because you're building it around the market. You're not betting just one horse to win multiple races. You're treating every single race as its own individual market, trying to achieve that profit target that you set out. So identifying the races is probably one of the trickiest elements of it. However, and then obviously the horses within those, especially the Supreme, the Ballymore, now the Turners, and the Albert Bartlett, because there's so little form. You're looking back into point to points and things like that. So you do have to take a chance on a few. You are taking a swing on the limited information that you've got, on tidbits of information, and that's what I've started to do. So now that we're starting to get really kind of into the depth of the season, I've started to take a chance on a couple, and I was happy to share those with you. So the Supreme Novice Hurdle being the first race. So obviously on the Tuesday, the first race, the Grade 1. Carafon was out the other day. Willie Mullins gave a good mention to him in his stable tour, suggesting that he's probably going to be one of the better novices that they've got in the yard this season. He was pretty impressive when he hacked up with Patrick Mullins on board last week. He's still available at 33. He's almost across the board, so almost with all bookmakers. He was thrown into pretty deep waters last season in a Grade 2 where he finished 5th, which was far from disgraceful. And then obviously, as I say, he bolted up the other day when actually drifting out to a price of odds against of 7-4. So I've taken a chance on Carafon at 33s in the Supreme as the first horse in my book. And the second of which is Manila Premier for Nicky Henderson. Bolted up by 12 lengths in a point-to-point. There was a good word for him at the beginning of the season when the stable tours were going around and all the whispers start about this thing's a machine, that thing is awesome. So I've taken a chance on him also at a price of 33s. Now, the reason for those two, obviously, I've made clear, but also, generally speaking, if this race is going to be won by any trainer historically over the last few years, it is going to be William Mullins or Nicky Henderson. So I've certainly taken on one from each stable, hoping to see Manila Premier out sooner rather than later because it has got a little bit quiet on him. But that's pretty much my position at the moment, and I'm building my book gradually around the Supreme, but they are the first two in it. The second race that I've had a look at is the Arkle. So those that currently already do follow me will know that I was keen on Touch Me Not. He was available at 40s prior to his run on yesterday. He ran second behind Load of Sud, who's obviously a very short price, in my opinion, for the Arkle, and he absolutely parted the birch on that fence in the midway part of the race. He's available now at 25s. I think that's still not bad. It would be unlike Jigginstown to have a 2-miler. They tend to buy staying chasers traditionally. But look, there could be more improvement to come from him. He's only had 3 starts over fences. He's certainly improved significantly for a fence already. So he's one that I'm not overly worried about. The only concern around Touch Me Not would be the fact that he has had those 3 starts. He only needs one more, and then he is handicap ready. Does that potentially mean we could see him step up in trip and he goes for the Turner's Novice Chase? Who knows? But I think he's potentially still a graded horse, and I hope that Gordon obviously pursues that and goes down that route with him. And the other is It's For Me for Willie Mullins. Really impressive in his initial bumper. Then finished 5th in a really strong bumper last season with the likes of Dream to Share, Factor File, Captain Teague. And there was plenty of winners, as you'd expect, to come out of that when they all went novice hurdling. But I think that he is definitely value at 25-1. He'll go from the front. He's definitely a 2-miler. He is quite keen. Wears a hood. But I'm keen on It's For Me. So those are the first 2 that I've also put in a book to start book building around the Arkle. So the other races that I would look at, as mentioned, would be the Turner's Novice Hurdle, formerly the Ballymore. Also, the Albert Bartlett would be a race that I'd look at. I just think it's a little bit too early currently for me to be willing to part with any more money on those. And also looking at the Brown Advisory as well. However, I am very keen on the Jukebox Man for that, and have just been backing him as a standalone selection for him to go and win that, hopefully, come March time. Right, I'll just do a bit of a screen share with you just to show you how easy the exchange is to navigate. So for those of you that haven't used an exchange before, this is what it looks like. With what I'll do is I'll share with you the Ryanair Chase. So as you can see here, I've already outlaid 55 quid on Corbett's Cross. He's still available at 20. That's essentially 27-1. So they're all the odds are in decimals. So Corbett's Cross is currently 27-1. And somebody, so the pink is essentially what somebody is willing to back the horse at, and the blue is what somebody is willing to lay the horse at. So somebody here is willing to have £7 at 39-1, whereas somebody's only currently willing to lay it at 27. So that money will just sit there until it's matched. So until somebody says, yeah, okay, I'm willing to take some of your 27-1, mate, then it will just remain unmatched, and they will wait for that to be matched, so that they've actually got a bet on. Now, just to show you how easy it is from a win perspective when doing win only to track and understand where you're at from a stake point of view and also from a profit point of view. As you can see over here, against every other horse is a minus figure, minus 55, minus 55. Corbett's Cross is obviously in green, which is a profit figure. So I've currently only backed one horse to a stake of 55 quid, and that is my return should he win currently. So generally, I will try and aim to around about £1,000 to £2,000, just personal preference, also to do with my bank and the amount of liquidity I have to bet. Obviously, I don't do this professionally. It's very much my hobby, passion, something that I love doing. But at the end of the day, I've got a working job at the same time. So if we look here, and just to give you an example, so if we were to look to back, let's just say La Press, and so here's his odds. So 26, that's actually 25 to 1. I'll put in my stake, let's say it's 50 quid. You can now see that the figures have changed. So now you would be able to see and keep tabs very easily without having to do any sort of mental mathematic gymnastics, and just look at the figures that are presented, and it's all done for you within the exchange. So it's an easy way of keeping track. So it would then change to be 105 quid outlaid in total. That would then become my profit figure if La Press were to win, and that would be my profit figure, which would obviously decrease by £50 if Corbett's Cross was to go and win. I'm not going to back him, so let's delete that. But hopefully that just gives you a little bit of an insight and understanding. So the back and lay, very, very easy. One of the other aspects of what you can do is then also place lay. So what you'll find is that maybe another episode on this, rather than trying to bombard too much information at those that aren't overly familiar with exchange accounts and backing and laying horses. But all it simply is a peer-to-peer betting platform. I can lay a horse, somebody else is backing it, and it's just me against that person, and Betfair take a percentage. In my case, 2% of every transaction, and that's how they make their money from it. As I was just saying, with regards to the place part of it, so what some people may do is that they back something each way, then come the festival, they still want the place part of the bet, so they lay off the win part. So you can lay off the win part of the bet and get your money back that you've invested for that, because you don't think it will win. So, for example, if you backed Mercury last year for the Ballymore at 50 to 1, you think he's got no chance of beating Ballyburn, so you lay off the win part on the win only exchange market, but you've still got the place part. So then when he does place, he didn't last year, funnily enough, but for another horse, for example, goes in at 50s, you've essentially then got like a 9 to 1 placed horse, and you've not lost your stake on the win part of the bet either, because you've laid that off on the exchange. It's not something I do because I just bet win only, and what I'm trying to do is build my book to find the winner, essentially. So kind of in summary, I hope that's been useful for some. As I say, I know that many will be familiar with the exchange and have used it previously. But kind of in summary, before you even start looking at building a book, get your accounts, get your multiple accounts that you need. Identify how much you want to outlay financially on each race, and also what your profit targets are going to be. Identify the races that you think are going to be best to build a book around. And look, you don't have to follow me. Do your own thing. You don't have to follow my horses. Build your own books, and follow many other accounts. So follow those other accounts, the likes of Road to Cheltenham, for that information so that you get it first, so you can act quickly. But yeah, as I was just kind of alluding to, most importantly, do your research. There's so many good opinions out there. You don't have to listen to mine. And if I were to give anyone any advice, it would to be not to be a sheep, to be honest, or follow anyone blindly, which probably sounds counterintuitive for me to be saying, given the fact that I am offering a tipping platform and I'm asking people to follow me, trust me, and I obviously know that I turn a profit. I have done, especially since calculating my P&L each month from January this year. So it might sound a bit daft me saying don't listen to me, but essentially what I am saying is listen to everybody and then form your own opinion. At the end of the day, if that tipster goes away, stops doing what he's doing, then you're still reliant on somebody who no longer exists or isn't able to offer you that information. So do all your research, trust your own gut, and yeah, come to your own opinions that you form through the research that you've done. I'd say I hope that's been useful for a few people. There'll probably be more detail around bets. I'll go through the markets in a lot more detail, talk about horses a lot more as opposed to figures and planning and strategy in future episodes. But it was just really to kickstart something off for those that had asked and just wanted a little bit more information around book building and how I go about it and how possibly they could get involved and start doing something similar for some of the races at Cheltenham this year. If obviously the channel's pretty new, if people could like, subscribe, drop any comments in below, any questions you've got, any feedback would be appreciated as long as it's nice, don't be nasty. And I'll obviously see you over on episode 2.